the idea is to make a brief presentation, the shorter as possible. So then we would like to hear you and your questions, and happy to answer them.
Yeah. Well, for me, I mean, I have, you know, I've done some testing with it, and I really like it. I thought you guys did a great job. The thing that's concerning me most really is, how do you interface with the talent? Is there a way to interface with the talent remotely so that you can kind of give them direction?
Yeah, well, there is no way to do that from the application, but some of our clients are using like a Zoom calling in a separate device, or FaceTime calling, and some of them are also using sharing the iPad screen, so the producer or director knows what the actor is actually seeing.
Right.
And yeah, here is Nathan, a colleague of us, that he will tell us about his experience, because some of them are also sending a gear to their actors and a super complete tutorial on how to mount the microphone and all that stuff.
Right. Well, I tried sharing the mobile ADR screen on Zoom, right? As a test, but what ended up happening, it was out of sync. Like the audio was out of sync with the picture, and it was kind of jerky, and it just wasn't smooth. So I figured I can't really utilize that.
Yeah, and it adjusts the level too and makes the level very low.
Yes.
So before, I think, do we want to, do people want to watch the 4.5-minute video Luciano and Santiago made this morning? It's kind of a quick run through of them. One person, Luciano as the editor and Santiago as the actor. Would everyone like to watch that?
Sounds great.
Sure.
Okay.
Yep.
So, and if you already know how the app works, maybe go have a cup of coffee and come back in 4.5 minutes.
Right.
Go cut some Foley. Go cut some Foley.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sharing the screen. We just did a mock-up this morning with Santiago. Do you see my screen?
Yes.
Hello, this is a mock-up of an ADR session using our mobile ADR application. I'm Luciano, and I will be the editor, and this is Santiago, and he will be the actor. So I wanted to show you my screen and to show you how to create each video in Pro Tools. You can create each cue here in Pro Tools, each video cue. I already created 3 regions that belongs to each line we need to record. You know, I have here a guide track and a video in Pro Tools. So each region belongs to ADR in and ADR out. And I will go like 5 seconds per roll to start off the video. So we will do only 1 cue for this demonstration because we need it to be shorter. So I copy the cue name from here and leave a marker in Pro Tools. And I will go a bit like 2 seconds after the ADR end to create a video. And I now do bounce QuickTime. And I will put the name Bill02 and click on bounce. So now the video is created. You see here I have it in my bounce files folder. And now I will add the metadata with our cue editor. I simply drop the file here. In this window you see a preview of the first frame of the video, so I can quickly enter it from there, from what I see in that timecode. And the rest of the fields I will grab it from the cue sheets that I have here. This is the cue number 2, so I will copy cue name from here. I will copy ADR in, the ADR out, and the cue line text. And once I'm done, I have to repeat this process with all the video I have. Once I'm done, I click on the update metadata button, and that's it. Now the video has the metadata. So I now compress the video. It's the same if you have 30 videos, you compress 30 videos, and now you airdrop the zip file to your iPhone or iPad. I have an iPad here. So it's the same if you drop one video or 30 videos, they will all be automatically imported in the application. And now I can go to select video and send files. And I sent it already to Santiago, who is the actor.
Okay, I am the actor. I already imported the video into my iPad. I want to use my headphones so you can hear the sound from the iPad. I will record the first take.
Nearly 15 years ago.
You killed my best friend Willie Parker.
Nearly 15 years ago.
You killed my best friend Willie Parker. Okay, great. Now I just need to send them to Luciano. I will do it here. I select the recordings, send the files, done.
Okay, I already received Santiago's email. I downloaded the zip and uncompress it, and here I have build 02 take 1 and take 2 that Santiago just did. So why I left the markers on the session? It's very simple. I can just now drop the WAV files and they will match the video start and the markers. So it's a fast way to spot the WAV files in Pro Tools once you receive it from the actor. And that's it. Now you are ready to edit your ADR. So we wanted to share this video to you because this is a good way of creating each video in Pro Tools, and just to, if you leave markers for each video start, then it will be super fast and easy to spot them, the recordings, once you get back in Pro Tools. So did any of you is using this? Yeah, go ahead, bro.
So just want to let everybody know, as we're doing this meeting right now, we are testing timestamping. And so we do hope to have timestamping added so the markers are less necessary. And we hope by the end of this week, we'll be testing an automated version of the desktop application so that you can import 100 videos and with your Pro Tools information or EDQ information, and it'll sync everything up so you don't have to manually do the time code entries and the data entries. So, you know, thanks to Alexa Zimmerman and Lon Bender, we've been helping them, and some of this, that's kind of how that came to be. So I just want to let everybody know that we know that there's manual labor, and we're doing our best to work quickly to eliminate it.
Okay, so about the equipment that some of our clients is using, you know, the applications really works only with an iPad, like this one, or with an iPhone, and the iPad or iPhone built in mic. We recommend it in our website and our manuals to use this tiny mic. It's a mini shotgun mic. It has lightning connection, just to put it in your iPad or your iPhone. Really, the quality of this microphone, it's quite okay. It's a small microphone. It's easy to use, and you just connect it. Of course, the actor is the one who will connect it. Just connect it, and here you have a headphone jack, and that's it. But some clients started to use external equipment with this. Well, some of them are. Here is Nathan that will speak in a bit, and he will tell they made an equipment setup for that they are shipping to each actor, along with a super detailed tutorial. And some other clients started to use like audio interfaces to use the application with a shotgun. We know that there's equipment called iRig Pre-HD, which is lightning connection, and it has an XLR input, and it has phantom power, and it also allows to playback from the application to the headphone jack. So it works. And there's also a Focusrite iTrack Mini interface that also works. And some of them are starting to use a shotgun instead of the built-in microphone or this tiny microphone. Well, that's what we wanted to say about equipment. Not sure if you, Nathan, want to tell us your experience by shipping the iPad and microphone to the actors.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. So I'm an LA-based sound designer and mixer. Yeah, we've been doing quite a bit of work with this. We've probably done, maybe we're working on 3 different features, and we've probably done now over a dozen different sessions with actors, including a couple that were over 50 cues. Yeah, I mean, we've and I think Luciano has a portion of our tutorial we put together that we're sending around to the actors. It's been actually going very, very well. There's been a few little things we've had to learn, and actually we just in the last week, it's like unfortunate, but not for us. We actually had one actor in New Hampshire, kind of in rural New Hampshire. And there were actually 2 different productions that she's on. And so we actually were put together with supposed to put us together with another company in New York that was already planning to send a kit up. So we actually all just loaded our cues in together into that rig. However, when they sent the kit, they actually just sent it in a Pelican case and put the shipping label right on the Pelican case, and it was stolen. So I'd say number one, and I had kind of thought about this already, is if you're going to send a Pelican case with a iPad and stuff in it, I would recommend putting that in a box, because a Pelican case bare tells people that there's something valuable in there, and I'd say it would probably ramp up your potential to have it stolen. So there's a little pro tip. And in fact, in that instance, we already had both our kits out. So we had a third little Rode microphone, and we actually just shipped next day the Rode microphone, and she had an iPhone, and we were actually able to do her cues just that way, giving her the microphone, and she used her own device. So that actually worked out really well. And I think that's a nice option. I mean, we're in a situation right now where we're kind of we have another probably dozen sessions to do in the next 2 weeks. So we have 2 kits put together, and they're all actively working all the time. So in terms of other than that and shipping, I mean, you guys can see the kind of tutorial we put together. I think that, it's pretty easy to get things around. I mean, we one of the biggest challenges for us was just, we put this all together since the quarantine started. So big trick was finding the items that we needed. So finding the tripods, finding the Pelican cases. We actually were able to source everything that we're using from Best Buy, but that meant doing curbside pickups at 4 different Best Buys in LA. And luckily we have 4 Best Buys within 10 miles or 15 miles. So we were actually able to do that. That's very specific to this moment we're in. But, other than that, we've been pretty happy with it. I think that one of the other things that it's always this thing about how do we create something that's sort of foolproof for the actors. And so, hopefully some of you guys could benefit from the work we did. We actually spent maybe close to 2 weeks kind of prepping our materials and testing, figuring out how to write it in a way that everybody could understand, using images so that they could actually assemble. We decided when we first started, we were thinking about using actually like audio stands and things that were in mounts. And then, we all ended up landing on using the camera tripod because we felt like that's something people have seen, and they have some idea of how a camera tripod works. So it feels a little more, I would say, consumer friendly. So that was like a conscious choice of doing that. So, you know, I would say that actually, you know, in terms of equipment and setup, it's all gone very, very smoothly. And we've had all different types of actors doing this, and everybody is feeling fairly confident with it. One thing we've decided, so I would say 95% of our stuff is happening in LA. One of the things that we've been doing is, you know, we're obviously trying to be very careful about cleaning. And so we do, you know, drop-offs are done with a mask and gloves. We're cleaning the physical device and all the equipment before we drop it off and when we pick it up. We're also including alcohol wipes in the kit so people can feel like if they want to do their own cleaning of all the pieces of equipment, they can do that. So that's been kind of an important part of it. Another thing we've offered, and I'd say, you know, it depends on the performer. We did the ADR with Dermot Mulrooney last week. He loves setting the kit up because he thought it was really cool to kind of set it up on his own. We've had a couple other actors who weren't really confident with the setup. And so what we did is we just go to their residence, we assemble the kit outside, leave it for them, and then, you know, they come out and take it inside. So it's already kind of assembled, and then they can just work with it assembled. And then when we come back, it's the same thing. They can set it outside and then we disassemble it. So we're still social distancing, but we're able to kind of help through that. I'm trying to think. So, you know, there's a few things we've kind of trial and error we've learned. I would say, you know, in this document, one of the things is I wrote up a kind of little card. And by the way, this is a PDF that they can view on the iPad, so they can go to the Books app and view it. We also include, and then we also send this out to all their reps and people ahead of time. So it's a way for everybody to kind of know what's going on up front. So that there can be a dialogue about safety, and there can be a dialogue about, you know, what exactly is this. And what we found is all the hesitance that we've had initially, as soon as people see this document and they understand what we're doing, everybody's been really great about it so far. But one of the things is in the box, we actually have laminated cards that include the card there that shows the kind of basics of what the buttons do, and the card that shows how to send the files. So we include those in as a laminated card that we put in the box. So then they actually, if they get into a jam, they can just grab that card and be like, oh, okay, here's how I send this, or here's what the buttons do. So, you know, one of the things, if you want to pull up the card that talks about recording at home, I think it's up towards the top. Yeah, so one of the things is we put together this little card for them, because I think this is probably one of the bigger challenges. Is, I mean, there's definitely a software element, there's a physical setup element. That to me hasn't been an issue. This is the area that I think actually can be a little tricky. Because, you know, obviously the reflections in the space, if they are, one of the actors we worked with was like, oh, I want to do it in my garage. Well, because he had a new baby at home, and I totally understand that, but like in and of itself, a garage isn't necessarily the best space you're dealing with reflection. So what we had to do is talk with him about, well, how do we set up your garage in a way that we're not going to hear that room in all the ADR? And so in that case, what we did is we actually did some trial and error. We listened to his tracks. And we encourage all the actors to do that, is like, send us tracks so we can hear what you've got ahead of time. And then we just had him drape some blankets in his garage, and we got tracks that were totally usable. They aren't the best that we've gotten, but they were to a point where we could gate reflections and we could make them sound clean. So anyway, so we put this together just for people so they can, and what I found is that adding this information in there, they immediately are like, now they kind of feel like, oh, I, you know, this is something that I can understand. I can understand that if I move it around, or if I choose the right space, it's going to make my recordings better. And everybody's been very open to that. And otherwise they might not think about turning the air conditioner off or something like that. So, so that's been a big part of it. Another element to this, we just had a character, it was actually the same guy who was doing it in the garage. And so that was an instance where all his quiet, normal voice lines were fine, but he had a couple kind of yelling outdoor lines, and those we were activating the room too much. So what we suggested in that place is we just had him take the kit outside, and he did those 3 or 4 lines outside. And so then we just got the kind of, you know, the ambience was fine, no big deal, and those worked well. So that's a little bit of a note. Someone was asking about kind of screen sharing. We've had various, and this both in the terms of us troubleshooting with them or just seeing what they're doing, and then also in terms of them working with director, with producers, and that part of it. So, we in this document we talk about an app called Screencast, and Screencast is really cool. It's kind of a very small indie little screen share program, and it's really simple, which is what we liked. And it allows you to you can just prepay for like an hour of time. I think it's like $1 an hour. So for us, that's like, oh, that's cheap. We can just load up a few hours of screen sharing time. However, what we found is that this app, once you have multiple units going, like we have 2 systems, his software doesn't deal so well with that. So if you have one iPad, it seems to work fine. But if you add a second, his way of dealing with buying time seems to get screwy. So we've actually been exploring another program called, what is it called? It's made by the Log Me In people. It's called, sorry.
TeamViewer?
No, it's not TeamViewer. It's, I think I have it in my notes. Join.me. So Join.me is and so one of the tricks with this screen sharing stuff is that it's part of it is that some of the apps are kind of complicated for the talent to deal with. It's like you have multiple screens and multiple things you have to click. So one of the things we loved about Screencast is it's just like, it's basically one page. It's really straightforward. Join.me it's made by the Log Me In people, I think. So it's a little bit more of a known brand. It's fairly simple. And so it was sort of another good option. But one of the things that we found is we did a lot of testing with Zoom, and we tried kind of all the products that are out there. One of the things that's very important is you don't want to use a product in which it automatically grabs the audio from the device along with the screen share, because then you get into this kind of iPad core audio conflict situation where, like Zoom, it's pretty good about asking you if you want to join with audio, but even so, it pops something up immediately. And if the actor says yes, well, now it's going to mess with the ADR app. So it's like, we don't want to get into that kind of a situation. So in our testing, what we ultimately came to the point of view is that it has to be an app in which you have to go into a settings page and turn on the audio feature in order for us to feel safe to have that running on the iPad with the ADR app, because obviously the ADR is the paramount element. We've been trying this Join Me app. It's had some login issues as well. So, just understand your mileage may vary with these apps because of, it is a little bit of a specific use case because you're dealing with the actual microphone and, recording element. So that, in that case, like, and someone else was saying that, the issues with sync, that's going to kind of be there. I don't know if there's really any way around that per se. Any of these kind of consumer grade screen sharing apps aren't really designed for kind of synchronized audio. We've been using some like more pro grade stuff in this Amazon movie we're working on, but those products are $1,000 a month. So, it's like, ultimately, unless you already have that for another, if somebody else is paying for that, great. But otherwise, I don't think it's a really viable solution. So, ultimately for us, like what we tell the directors is, we're putting up a screen share so you can reference the clip and what part, you can see the text of what the line is. You can see the scene. You got your EddieQ prompt side that you can look at. So it keeps you in sync. But the intention is not to have a synchronized viewing experience like you're in a studio. That's just not really a practical, that's not really practical for this situation. It's really more to just keep everybody in sync. And for them, I also, in my opinion, like, for us at this point, like, we're all often more thinking about tonality and thinking about emotion and performance because, we've got the software now to deal with a lot of the sync issues as long as they're in the ballpark. The other thing I've been finding within that issue is that, the app is so in front of them and they have control and the review features. I mean, I think let me also just say that I think the app is just brilliantly put together. It's just kind of a remarkable piece of software. This is we all know this is a very tricky thing, interfacing with talent, you know, all the factors involved. Like, I think that the way the interface is designed so they can do a cue and listen and feel like they're in control and they can mark the good cues. What we've been finding is the sync is just excellent. And we had an actress do 50 cues, and it was like, literally, there was almost zero sync issues that we couldn't handle using software. So that hasn't been a big problem. Let's see. So one of the other things is that communication question is an interesting one. So the way you might be able to find in the section, one of the things that we originally developed is we wanted to kind of take the communication element out of the iPad, because again, this audio issue of sharing audio within the device you're recording on versus however. So secondary device seemed like the best way to go. What we decided to do is we decided to add a second clip in our kit so they can just mount their phone below the iPad, and so they can just use their device and mount that there. And so then they can just turn that on in a speakerphone capacity, and they can either use FaceTime or just a phone call. And so that way they can just interface with producers and directors, or interface with us. Now, I will say, you know, this is something I didn't think about initially, but I probably should have, is that, you know, we're dealing with some kind of like upper echelon talent, and they're not so keen about sometimes using their own device. They're not really wanting to email or text directly with us, for instance, because of privacy issues. And, you know, I understand that. So one thing we've been considering is that we may add an iPod Touch to our kit, because an iPod Touch, you can do a FaceTime audio call or a FaceTime call. And so by adding that, we can kind of create an all in the kit communication setup for them, that they don't have to feel like they're using their own device. So that's something we're considering. You know, it's been fine. We've made it work. But I think a couple of our actors it would have been a little easier because they were reticent to use their own device. And so in that case, they kind of ended up just kind of doing their own thing and having us check retroactively rather than doing a real-time monitoring kind of record session. So that's something to think about. Let me see. Okay, so here's something I just wanted to mention to you guys. One of the issues we've been seeing is, you know, the Rode mic is excellent. I'm just so impressed by it. And, you know, the sound quality is very good, certainly within the range of, you know, it's not perfect in the Warner Brothers ADR studio kind of way, but in terms of us being able to, you know, use the tools we have, and, you know, we've got dialogue match now, we've got these tools where we can do so much with the tonality of these voices, that it's within the threshold of what's necessary to make it work in the project. So I think that's outstanding, and it's so small and easy to send off. And like we said, we even sent just the mic, which it's cool. I've also noticed they are completely out of stock everywhere, so everybody is buying them up. So one of the issues we've seen, though, is that the mic does do some kind of auto gaining, and I don't know if this is an iOS feature or, you know, I don't know where that happens in the signal chain, but there is some auto gain happening. You know, one of the projects we just did, there were actually quite a few breath cues and effort cues, and we were finding some issues with that. And I was actually kind of sad because one of the movies we're doing, it's like kind of a critical sound design element. And I initially was like, oh, we're hearing some kind of buzzing in the recording, and it was because of this auto gaining that was happening. However, I did some work in RX, and what I found out is that in this particular mic, if you use isotope decrackle, keep it on the medium setting, not the high quality setting, which I normally gravitated towards. It's a lesson to me that actually the medium setting seems to work a little better for whatever reason. So the medium setting turned all the way up completely eliminates this buzzing issue. And if you zoom in close on the waveform, you can see it's a little clicking kind of, it's some kind of digital artifacting that's happening. So anyway, that's a perfect solution. It essentially does not affect or create any artifacts in the audio itself, and it just eliminates it. So we were actually able to use all these very detailed breath cues. So something to keep in mind. I was really thrilled about that it's kind of a point and shoot solution for this particular issue with this mic. a couple other things you can just in terms of what we've learned, again, kind of we're using, let me just say, read the manual. There's definitely some things in terms of prepping cues that like we overlooked. We were having a few issues that could have easily been remedied by my staff reading the manual a little closer. Things like not, when you create a batch of files, you don't create a folder and then zip that and then load it to the iPad, because that fails. That's probably one of the biggest ones. That it was in the manual the whole time. I constantly tell my guys, like, you gotta read the manual. But anyway, so that's one to keep an eye on, is that the way you create that zip file is very important. And we've actually, some of the idiosyncrasies of the iPad itself in terms of file management are not the best. So, we've been experimenting with various ways of working. We were working a lot with initially using iCloud, and iCloud is cool because it's like, what we did is created iCloud accounts per device. And so then we could shoot things into iCloud, into the file management in iCloud. However, what we've ultimately found is that for us working internally, it's fine because we know, but it's a multi-step process to get things into because you kind of have to manually move files from the iCloud part of the file system to the internal folders. And in fact, now that we've been working more with Google Drive, we found that the Google Drive method is actually a little bit cleaner for moving things onto the iPad. And also that works really well for getting files to Talent. I know also you can email. We've been dealing with some big sessions with a lot of material. So Google Drive works really well for us too. And again, we use a Google, we use Google Suite for our email and everything anyway. So we're just able to generate internal email addresses per unit, and that helps us target things to the units more easily. So anyway, so that's something to be thinking about. The other thing we've been doing is we've been, because of privacy issues, again, and because actors don't want to necessarily, some actors just don't want to give out any of their personal contacts directly, and dealing through reps can be difficult. What we actually have done is, because we've just set up the iPads so that, because they have individual iCloud accounts, that means they have an iMessage account that's per that unit. And also FaceTime. So in fact, we've just been using the iPad itself that we deliver as the communication unit. So we can just, if they have a question, they can text us right from in iMessages, right from the iPad, or if they want to let us know they're sending files, etc. So we've actually just used the communications on the iPad we're delivering itself, and that kind of takes away this issue of privacy, because they just interface with us on the actual device itself. So I think that's kind of everything I'm just thinking about in terms of what we've been up to and our setup, but I'm happy to, again, answer any questions that anybody has through all this.
Thank you very much, Nathan. This is really great feedback from you. I have a couple of questions for you. Of course, as you mentioned, the actor, the talent, has a bit of a learning curve to use the application. And in your experience, that only how much time that it takes to the actor to get familiar to the application? It's just the same day, or they?
Yeah. So what we do is, to kind of mitigate any issues, is what we've been trying to do is deliver at least the day before. Because we want to do this kind of acoustic test of their recording space. And so that automatically, they have to deal with the software ahead of time. So, it's kind of a no pressure situation for them to track some cues. And so any kind of thing that we've seen where they're a little confused about the interface has kind of been mitigated by that process. So it's kind of a pre-record session. And that's kind of worked out really well for us. But otherwise, I mean, I feel like you guys have done such a great job with the interface. We've had virtually zero problems with the actual recording process. It's just that they take to it almost immediately. I will say, we're also dealing with performers who are very seasoned. They've spent a lot of time in ADR over the years. And so by the app kind of mirroring more or less what they're used to in the beeps and the streamers, I think they just immediately intuit what they need to do. So I think that also could be you know, we're going to actually be moving into a week with a lot of kind of less experienced performers, and I'm kind of curious to see how that goes with them not having kind of all this experience with the app. But in general, we're seeing very little issues. I think, you know, you guys have also been doing a great job of kind of, you're taking our feedback. The pre-roll is helping a lot. That was something that was an issue. You know, we had a little learning curve just making sure that we were giving enough tail on our actual quick times. That's something that make sure you guys do is, you know, if you make the out point too tight, you know, a lot of actors kind of end up working a little behind. You know, I think we all know this, who work with ADR, a lot of times they're a little behind their performance, and you pop that forward a little bit and it syncs right up. So make sure you're giving enough tail to make that work, and make sure that they are able to kind of get through the queue. So
right, great. You know, you mentioned something about the microphone. We didn't test it really, but we had feedback from another client that is using the iRig pre-HD along with a couple of shotguns. You know, it's interesting that he told us that he's not that sure that the shotgun option is better, because of course the actors are not recording in a quiet, super quiet room, in an ADR stage or something like that. So he mentioned something about the shotgun getting too much of the room. Of course,
right.
it takes more quality in the background as well. So we didn't. It will be good if you can do some comparison between shotgun versus this tiny broad mic.
Right.
Yeah, I'm just saying that shotgun it may not be the best of the situations.
Right.
So, you know, something that you are doing that we didn't think of in the past is that as you are preloading your iPads, you are making the actors like uploading the recordings just to iCloud, right? Not sending by email or something like that. Or
Right.
you are using Google Drive now. You know, we did on our website, we have many videos, many tutorial videos, and one of them is how to use Google Drive, because the thing is that we also wanted to speak about is about security of the footage you are sharing with the talents. And Google Drive is you can use Google Drive, you can use Aspera servers, and the thing is that you can upload the content to a cloud and share a link only to an email account. So if you, for example, Nathan, you are using one account per iPad, that link can only be open in that account, and it's not really public. So, so it's a good way of sharing the content more securely. And you know, we discovered that actor can also send their recordings via email, even if it's more like 25 megabytes, which is the limit of the email, because the Apple email offers one option that is called MailDrop. I'm not sure if you are familiar with it, but MailDrop simply upload the content. If it's more than 25 megabytes, it will upload the content to iCloud, and you as an editor, you will receive a download link.
Oh, great.
Yes. So it's very simple for the actor because it's just sending one email instead of sending multiple emails for the email limitation. So
And that's it. That's in the Apple Mail app.
yeah, that's in
Or
the
that's
Apple Mail app.
okay.
You simply send the file. You select all audio files and click on share, on send files, and you click the email app, and it will pop up a warning mentioning that the zip file is heavier than 25 megabytes, and it will offer to use MailDrop instead of email.
Great.
Yeah,
Great.
it's super easy. Okay. Okay, you talked about the supervising the session, and I think most of you using the app already know that. Maybe you mentioned something like that, that if you do many things, like too many applications for the actor to communicate with you or the producer or the director, you know, the actor just need to focus on acting, not not all these extra steps. And did you try the offline situation where you just send the actor and the actor records offline and then send the stuff to you?
Yeah, I mean, you know what? It's actually been more about producers and directors than, you know, we had a movie that we were doing that had a lot of pretty experienced talent, and they just all tracked themselves, and it was great, and they just nailed it. We just had another smaller movie where the producers and directors wanted to be very involved, and so that was, you know, that's what they wanted to do. And so in that case, they were mainly kind of monitoring with audio. You know, we were using a little bit of screen sharing, but for the most part, they were just listening in. So, you know, it's a preference. And I honestly think we get a little better tracks when the actor can just focus in and do their own thing. But, you know, again, that's a political question often more than a creative question. So.
Okay, great. Okay, Rob, do you want us to we can just receive questions from anyone here now?
Yeah, Sunny had a question about yelling and gain levels. So we do not have a level setting in the application. It's all done. The application was designed for actors for simplicity, and we thought the less the actor had to do, the better it was, so they could just focus, like Luciano said, on acting. So maybe Nathan, if you could address that, the yelling, has that been an issue, or if anyone else can chime in on, have levels been an issue with the application?
I'm trying to think. We had a few level issues. I mean, one of the things we've really made a point with the actors, and you can even see it in our recording card, is like we really charge them with, like, you guys really, you have to listen, and please listen back. And if you think something isn't working right, like, please adjust. So we had one actress that did some cues, and she had a very nice walk-in closet. And so the sound quality was great, and all she had to do was back off the mic a little bit more, and it was maybe a little bit of room reflection, very slight, and we could gate that out, and it worked great. So the first few cues were peaking. She backed off physically from the mic a bit, and it worked fine. Another performer we worked with, was in a less ideal space, and then we suggested, actually, in that case, it was an outdoor cue. So we just said, why don't you get outside where you're not going to get those reflections? And then we were able to make that work just by having them step out into their yard. So, it seems like the best solution at this point is back off the mic. And if backing off the mic means that you're going to get a lot of room reflection, then you need to get in somewhere less reflective. I mean, I think this is also why, if we do the pre-tests with the recording and we hear that the room is already a little bit, maybe there's a subtle amount of slap happening, then that also, we might cull through the cues and be like, okay, I know these are going to be kind of boisterous cues. Let's flag those ahead of time and let them know that could be an issue. So they already kind of know, like, okay, I need to solve for this problem. And, again, it's like trying to create a kind of relationship with the performer where you really like make them feel like they're the problem solver. Like, what I say is, like, you're the engineer and the talent. And so, we're really relying on you, and everybody's really stepped up in that way because they want to get great tracks too. And honestly, during this virus, like, no one's working. They're also really thrilled to, like, be working and doing something. So that helps as well.
How have you dealt with, a lot of times everybody just wants to roll on and on with the cue. So, I asked Rob about wild tracks, and things like that, where they just want to roll. How are you handling? Is there anything where like at the end, you're like, oh, I just want a bunch of stuff. Are you creating a dummy queue that's like, and Luciano, is there a limit as to the size of a file that you can create? Like, I mean, is it a minute? Is it 2 minutes? Is it, or is it based on file size as far as like creating a dummy queue that you can say like, okay, go to queue wild 1 and we're going to do 10 different takes of you just doing wild stuff.
Yeah, that's exactly what we've done. We've tried to, for the most part, I don't think we've done a dummy queue, but we've done, if we knew we had a section where we wanted them to do a lot of rolling, we just made an extra long queue through that section, maybe the whole scene or something. So we still had a reference point, but yeah, and so we haven't had that specific use case, but that makes a lot of sense, right? That you could do, we were doing essentially the same thing. We still tried to tag it to wherever they were in the movie just to keep them going. I mean, I think there's also, one of the, and I don't think I've talked with Luciano or Rob about this, but one of the things that's been a little bit tricky is that we're in, and again, I may not be articulating this exactly right, but I think there's in the review function, if they roll past the end of the marker, I think it cuts it off in the playback, but we actually have the recording in the system. It's just getting cut off. Is that right?
Yeah, you are actually speaking about you get the guide track back after the ADR end.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. So that's something that's been a little confusing for them because a lot of actors kind of roll, they'll work slower. They want to do a looped queue with 3 or 4 times in a row. So that's something where we've just had to be like, okay, guys, I totally get that. And the trick to that is just hit that record button again. Just understand, it's not going to let you just roll through, or maybe it's actually recording it, but you being able to hear it after the fact isn't going to work. So that's something I'm sure you guys are thinking about this, and in the same way that you added the pre-roll, this is a living, breathing piece of software. So I think that's something where a looping mode would be probably useful as well, something to think about. But at the same time, like, got to be careful because you get too many buttons and then it gets confusing. So it's one of those things.
So we on Alexa and Lon asked for that on their movie. And it's just a matter of cost. So if we make an open-ended recording for series, like, where it doesn't stop recording until you hit something on the screen, and then the ability to play back. So now we're not using the video as the reference, we're using the audio as the reference for playback. So it's just that the cost and the complexity, I don't want to be poor. And
of course.
And so, if people tell me that this is super important to them and we can raise the price, then, or charge it as a feature on the app, then I'll go ahead and do it because there's a demand for it. I just, it's, just adding broadcast wave timestamps, for example, all this stuff costs money to develop. So we can do it. We could probably have it done in a week, or probably say like 12 days. But it just all depends if people want it.
But just
I mean, my opinion is like it. I mean, I'm happy to pay more. I think the app's a bargain as it is. So I mean, my personal philosophy is, I know we're living in a time where people just want apps to be free, but my philosophy is this is a professional tool. It's amazing. Yes, please charge us.
Yeah, I would agree.
However you want to do it.
Another thing, back to, so is there I've just kind of tinkered with it yet. But is there a limit as far as file size and as far as size of clips or how long are clips?
I wanted to say that you can actually do it with just make a longer video. You can maybe put a black screen after the ADR ends, so the actor keeps parroting the rest of the video. You can do a 5-minute video or 10-minute video. It's the same. There's no limit for that. And to reply to Nathan's question before, if you want the guide track not to show after the ADR end, you simply move the ADR end till the end of the video, and that's it. You will hear the video. The playback will be until the ADR end. So that's it. You can do that.
So, and maybe another option down the line might be to mute the guide track. I know you're talking about more buttons, but for the actor, where it's like maybe they want to hear it once and then they don't want to hear it again after
That is
that.
already incorporated. If you connect headphones, you will be offered to mute the guide track. Of course, we don't. You need to connect the headphones, or else you will hear the guide track while you're recording.
Right.
Will be mixed with your microphone. So yeah, if you connect headphones, you can click off the guide track.
Right, and with an iPhone, if you have the mic plugged in, although it's got that the Rode mic has a separate input for headphones, doesn't it? That's right. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
The Rode microphone steals the headphones.
Yeah, exactly. If you connect the headphone, you need to connect it here on the Rode jack, because if you do it on the iPad, you won't hear anything.
So you're saying that you can program it to leave the tail open for 5 minutes to the end of the reel, basically. If, like you were talking about, Sonny, you wanting to do wild tracks, if you have actors who, the certain actors that we know who love to just go on and on and on, you can do that. And if you program it that way to leave it open, the production will not come back in?
That the projection will be back in only if you play back, not when you are recording. When you are recording, the guide track is off on the ADR in and keeps off until you hit stop.
Right.
So Becky, I think based on what yourself and Darren are asking for, and Alexa's asking for, is for open-ended series recording, and for us to provide that. It would have to be different logic than the straight in out. So we will look at coding that. I've already have it on the whiteboard how it should be done and how it'll be good for the actor and the editor to use it. But I think based on your question, what the application does now, you can do it, but it's not designed to do it. Okay. So I don't want to get it all confusing with how you normally would work in a series versus adapting a system that wasn't designed that way.
But if, let's say then for parroting, if I know, and I'm setting up the queue, and I know that this actor likes to do it 3 times in a row, right? Then I can leave the tail open.
Yeah.
I can manually, I leave the tail open, and I know that he can hear it and do it 3 times, and I leave it open long enough for him to do that. The production's not going to pop back in.
The key to that, though, is that you have to make the video long enough to make, so and we're just kind of like, and then
it's not, you can definitely do that, and people are using it that way. The limitation with the current design of the software is that to listen to all your takes back is a headache, because now you have to set your ADR out to the very end, and then the actor can listen to all the takes, which, if they don't have to listen and you have an ear when you're monitoring the session and you're making a list, then maybe it's not a big deal. But we will, if we design the parroting, it's actually, we did use the term parroting, and it's a blue parrot head. So it's kind of funny that you said parroting, that it would be designed specifically for that technique of ADR.
Yeah. Great, thank you.
And the playback would be good.
Yeah.
Anyone has another question?
I'm curious, the demo video that you showed earlier, it looked like it laid down 2 takes in one file. Is that correct? And is there a default number of takes that it does was I incorrect in how I interpreted that?
two takes means two files. So if you can do 10 takes, and the actor will send the editor like 10 WAV files, but it's one WAV file per take.
Okay. But in the demo, it looked like he basically hit record and it did it multiple times. Am I incorrect, or did he?
Yeah, you're right. But we just did that. We edit the video just to be
Ah,
short.
okay.
Yeah, normally you hit record, you wait.
It's the same as one take, one file, one in and out.
Exactly.
Okay.
You record one time and record one take, and you can then play back the take to listen to it, or just do a couple of options after that.
Right.
But it's clicking record each time.
Okay. What is the guys? What is the this question? What is the lowest iOS version that this works with?
Oh, it's OS 10.
Okay. Copy.
OS 10. But you know, the newer your device is, the better maybe the processor and that also influence the application.
Copy. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll jump onto that. Yeah, we had a lot of iPads around. We have a lot of iPads we use for BSS controllers in our facility.
Right.
They're not even that old, maybe 2 or 3 years old. And what we found is on sessions where you get a lot of queues loaded in, it would definitely start to get a little bit unhappy because of probably the way that RAM is managed with a lot of queues. So we actually just went ahead and bought, I think we bought 2 of the newest iPads. They were $400, I think, or something. So, but that eliminated a lot of issues we were seeing initially with some, not necessarily even that much older than the recent vintage.
Yeah, and I just want to mention it doesn't have to be an iPad Pro or something like that, because it works on iPad Air or even an iPad Mini, the newer ones. So also you should know, if you have an iPad Pro, that it does have a different Lightning connection. It does have a USB-C connection. So if you have an iPad Pro, you won't be able to use it with this Lightning microphone. You need to think of that as well.
Right. So I have, Nathan, I have a question for you. So are you charging the cost of this kit back to the production?
So our features that we're on right now, we already had deals in place. So we're basically making the cost what we would have done their studio ADR sessions for. So in that case, we just, it was a wash for us.
Got it.
So, and I think ultimately to build our 2 kits, I mean, we spent under $2,000. So we've made our money back.
Yeah, I've got a question for Nathan. Hi, it's Michael from London here. Just to clarify on the screencast stuff you were talking about, because that was one of the main things I was struggling with. The apps, you have to do a bit of homework on it, but sussing out the videos and everything is all relatively straightforward. But I tried it with showing my screen on Zoom, and actually it didn't work. When I went back into the TODD-AO app, it was just freezing. I don't know if it's some firewall thing or something. But it's interesting to hear other people have managed to get it working in Zoom, even though they've got a lag. From what you're saying, like this, what was it called? Join.me. Are you using that now? I wasn't sure from what you were saying that you've got the separate phone and you're just using FaceTime to see them doing it.
We're using both. So we're using the separate phone for audio communication. And then one scenario could be, let's say director and, the talent uses their phone to call the director on a FaceTime call or just a call. So then they can be speaking back and forth. The director can be listening in to what's going on and giving feedback. And then we're just using the screen share as kind of just a way for them to stay in sync about what queue they're on. So at least it gives the director that visual reference. And then what we're also doing is we're just uploading all of our videos to a file sharing for the director. So the director can also download the cues as H.264s. So if they want to reference the original performance, what we recommend is that, okay, if you're not sure about something, you can, usually they're on a computer there anyway, they can listen to the original. They've got their own copy that they can listen to. So it's like, you know, the screen share is kind of really just meant to keep everybody in sync about what cue they're working on. I would say it's not really good for much beyond that. Does that make sense?
No, absolutely. But it's funny you saying that, because that's one of the things. It seems a bit daft in a way, but like, if you, these small MPEGs that we're sort of sending out, obviously quick to share with director as well, and we've all got the same start point. And it almost crossed my mind in terms of not having to worry about lag and stuff, as if you could just sort, as they go for their take, just go like record, and we'll hit play, and we're all roughly in the right ballpark, and we've got a sort of crisp visual reference. It just seems a little bit amateur, obviously. But
Rob, what about will you charge us to do a transport sync, and we can have a director's app so they can we could do a classic timecode sync across the. I'll pay you $100 for that. I'm all for it.
Yeah, we can. If you can send me a document of how you want it to work, I'll look and see if it's practical to implement. I don't know how much people know the history of the app. This was, I worked on Bones for 12 seasons and recorded a lot of ADR of the actors. So this was designed for David Boreanaz to sit in his trailer or to be at home and record his 5 lines and be happy. So we've been adapting, COVID made us adapt this little application for TV loops into a bigger thing. So just document it, send me what your dream is, and if we can implement it, like I'll say that, having Millie and Galen and Becky on the calls, on this call, is very inspiring for me. So I'm definitely more inspired to do parroting now. Now that, especially a lot of Dave McMoyler and, highly esteemed people that, are on this meeting. So just let me know. Happy to consider it.
Yeah, I mean, I could see a function in which would kind of work out when we stripe time code into the, into the Pro Tools session on one side, and the sync IO, sync IO chases it on the other end, basically, creating a transport sync. Could work. I mean, we're already pushing all this stuff up. If the director had their own app that could do it, it would eliminate some of these monitoring issues. So anyway, yeah, I'll put something together.
Cool. Yeah, you're talking more like down.
Awesome. Let me just say,
down the line time code.
Yeah, I just say, Drew. I mean, I just want to reiterate, you guys are really, you're really doing a great job. I mean, even the stuff you guys have done in the last few weeks have I've frankly never seen a more responsive app development from anybody ever. And some of these things are exponentially making the software work better. So I'm just bravo. It's awesome. Yeah.
Thank you, Rob. Thank you, Rob.
Well, and thanks to Luciano and Santiago and our team.
Yeah, we were, as Rob mentioned, the history of our application. Our application was really released like 1 year ago, and no one used it. And of course, we did a lot of laboratory tested on the application, but we was really eager to get feedback from real using of the application, and we were ready to input that feedback from you and start making things better on the application. And I'm not sure if many of you knows that this application is not only used between the editor and the actor. That the producer, the director can also have the free application installed. And when the actors send the files to the editor, it can copy in the same email to the actor, the director, and they can right away play back the takes in the application. So they quickly can preview and play back the recording that actor just did. Instead of having to wait from the sound editor to send them a new movie with the actor text or something like that. So it's good.
Yeah, I recommend a WhatsApp group for that. You send one video out to the WhatsApp group, and the actor records it. They send their audio back to the WhatsApp group, and everybody imports it, and boom, there's the sync.
And that right there is awesome. I like that. That's really great. I didn't think of that.
Yeah, that's a great idea. We're gonna work with implementing that too. That's cool.
Yeah. Cool.
Okay, any other questions?
I actually had a question too. If you do a screencast or some screen sharing program then, and the director, producer, whoever's on the call then remembers that we need a few more lines, what is the easiest way then for the actor? Is there a way for the actor to just add a cue, or would that be the one we would call wild, or how would one deal with that?
Question.
Well, is that a question for me or for Nathan, or?
It's for anybody who would have a good answer.
Okay. Well,
I haven't used it yet, so I'm just thinking often a director, producer will remember that, oh, we should get that one too.
okay.
Wild.
What I would recommend in that case is, now it is possible for the actor in the settings wheel in the top left, if you hit that, the actor can hit the ADR start time or the ADR end time, and then they could jog, like say if they need to add their breath in, they can hit ADR start -5 frames, press and hold ADR start, and that changes the beeps, the location of the beeps. So that's a little clumsy for what you're talking about, but you could, if the actor was inclined, they could hit play, stop where it should be, and then, you know, ADR start, ADR end, so they could do the adjustment. But my recommendation was that if you have a connection, either iCloud or WhatsApp, is just have the editor update a new video and then send it over that way, because it's very quick to import a new video into their list.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah.
Yeah, we've had this scenario, and you know, when we're sending our own kits, it's very easy to just shoot them an email. I mean, we can use an email, we can use the iMessage app. You know, there's several ways to do it, or just throw another, you know, since the Google Drive works really integrated well, you know, we can send an email via Google, it gives them a drive link, they just click on it in the iPad and it, you know, hit copy to, and it loads it into the app. So it's not too difficult if you prep the file right.
Okay.
And I think the EdiLoad integration, where we don't, I mean, that's going to be huge because that's our normal workflow. So, you know, I think the biggest hangup is you got to prep a file. Only one of our editors really understands how to do that, because he's got to have an iPad and a keyboard with the iPad, and you know, so I think that's going to speed it up a lot, because you can prep a file in our normal method. That's going to make it really easy. So, well, the free desktop app was a temporary solution to improving the speed of queuing. So the more automated app, which is coming, you know, we're looking also at dedicated encryption for users. So it's not a general encryption, it's a specific encryption. And getting back to one point for Ulrika is that you can actually team viewer into the actor's iPad. So if you need to help them technically, TeamViewer is a good solution for supporting the actor remotely if they don't understand something.
Okay.
Yeah, TeamViewer not only shows you the screen of the iPad, but you can interact. You can actually control the iPad from where you are. Any other questions, or we should call it out?
Let me just say that if anybody wants to reach out to us and have a private Zoom meeting, or you have questions and you need us to walk you through stuff, we're here and we're happy to help help everybody. So, you know, yeah, just reach out to us.
Okay, well, thank you very much for being here today.
Stay healthy, everybody.
Hey, guys.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone. Cheers. Bye-bye. Thanks, Nathan. Big cheers.
Thanks, Rob. Good to see you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Becky, for letting me know about this.
Yeah.
all right, thanks guys, keep up the good work.